Relax, the keyboard is off and the press box is closed, but the mic is just getting warmed up. Welcome to the Hockey Writers Ink, the show where the writer is fresh off the presses and the ink is not dry. Join your host, Lance Green, the guardian of the blue paint turned writer, and co-host SteelFlyers, as we bring you all the latest on the Philadelphia Flyers. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next edition of the Hockey Writers Ink with your host, Lance Green.
All right, Steel, another edition, off-season edition as it is, but we seem to have pulled in a special guest with us.
I mean, not just a special guest. I mean, this is the guest, right? I mean,
no.
Come on now.
Am I
Keith
Jones? Am I Keith Jones? No.
No. No, but I'll tell you what, though, we definitely got the voice of the Philadelphia Flyers from NBC Philadelphia Sports, Mr. Jim Jackson. How are you, sir?
I am great. How are you guys?
Awesome.
There's no off season for us. Are you kidding?
Never.
Never.
You guys go on
right?
vacation? You ever go on vacations?
Yeah.
No.
What's that?
No.
I got 4 kids. Nah,
Yeah.
Really. You and
I don't
me on
really want to
vacation,
take
go
them.
on vacation.
No.
No, but at least you get to do some of that, though, right, Jim?
I did. Yeah. I just recently got back from Utah and Vegas. That was our trip for the summer, and going to go to New York for a little long weekend. But that's about it for me. Outside of that, lots of golf, swimming, and watching movies. Watched the Olympics. Enjoyed the Olympics a lot.
There you go.
Not much. Just relaxing a little bit. What is this, 4th summer? Yeah, I guess 4th summer since I was Phillies bound, and enjoying each summer more, to be honest with you.
There you go. You get to spend more time with the important things like family and everything else,
Absolutely.
right?
Yep.
All right. And one other thing that you get to spend a little bit more time doing
guys.
Okay, well, yeah. Is this?
Appreciate it.
Although the Phillies are off tonight, I could be doing this whether I was doing Phillies or not.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. But one of the other things that you also do and keep yourself busy with is the Jim Jackson Broadcasting School.
Yes.
And folks, there's a very special session that's being happening this Saturday, right, Jim?
Saturday morning, afternoon, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., 3 hours. And I basically do my 3-hour course in one sitting, 3 hours long. I do my 3 1-hour sittings in one sitting. So, and it's at a much lower price. So it's kind of for those who can't afford the one-on-ones, which is more extensive in terms of it goes on. After that, you get a shadow opportunity, review clips and things. This is more of a general 3-hour talk about my journey to broadcasting and lessons that I hopefully learned. About finding your niche in the business, about broadcast fundamentals, about 3 keys that I feel you have to have in this business. And then, of course, I open it up and any questions. The last one we did in July was tremendous, and it ended up going 4 hours. I had so many questions. So imagine that. I went over the time limit, guys. I can't imagine that.
Wait, no.
But I swear it was because of the questions. Anyhow,
Sure it
so
was.
I will not stop it until all questions are answered. That's what I'm trying to say. So looking forward to it. We moved it to the weekends. There's still plenty of room. So not going to be as large as the last one, which means it'll be even more interactive, I hope. So looking forward to it. You can just go to my website, jimjacksonbroadcasting.com. There's a little link to it. Sign up, or if you have any questions, you can reach me on LinkedIn or however you want to reach me. And it's pretty simple, $150 for the session, and then you get my one-on-one at half price if you want to after that.
For sure. Well worth it. Lance and I have both been recipients of some of your great tutelage, for sure. And
now you
by
are
all
my
means,
first run. Steel.
Well,
Sorry, Steel.
But it's all good, though. It's definitely something you need to get checked out if you want to do this. And it's great for the kids, especially if that's something that they want to get into school and learn how to do. I mean, this is an Emmy award-winning broadcaster right here, folks. Why not learn from the best? It's real simple. All you have to do is go to his website. There'll be links to that in the in the description here, and then you can also see it scrolling by here. You'll see the Jim Jackson Broadcasting School. Hop on over there and click in and get yourself scheduled. It's this Saturday from 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock. It's only $150. You can afford that for sure, man. Hop on over there and get signed up for that, for Jim's class, and then you get to have Jim Jackson be the person teaching you how to do what you need to do. So get on over there and sign up.
Night out. It's a dinner night out, right? 150
Yeah,
bucks.
I mean,
Anymore,
just about these days.
Who, believe me, getting back from vacation, it was more than that out there.
You know.
But yeah.
Exactly.
But now, really enjoying it. I've had with the camp last month, tremendous response. A lot of them choosing to go on with a one-on-one, and with what's going on in the hockey broadcasting world this summer with a lot of movement. I've had a lot of these guys going for jobs that I've had as past students, and some getting them. So it's been really rewarding. But I do want to point out, it's not just for hockey play-by-play. It's not just for play-by-play. As you know, Steel, you went to get better at podcasting. So it's for anchoring. It's for talk shows. It's for sideline reporting. It's for being an analyst.
Interviews.
Play-by-play. Yep. Interviews are part of all that. So it's wide ranging, especially these group Zoom, these group Zooms, because those are obviously where I talk to a group of people. So I can't be specific to a certain element, but I can answer questions about a specific element. So all broadcasting, all sports broadcasting, anybody who has that passion for that, check it out, because I'd love to meet you.
For sure. And I'll tell you what, man, I'm glad I did, for sure. I signed up for the class, and it was one of the most rewarding classes that I was ever able to take part in. And I learned so much about what you thought you knew, you don't really know. You know what I mean? And the 3 keys are some of the things that I still hold near and dear and still try to follow to this day. So thanks, Jim. Appreciate all the help.
My pleasure. And it is very gratifying. It's one of the things I get to do, as you say, because I'm not doing the Phillies anymore. And it's just so gratifying to talk to some of these students. One of the kids I mentored, actually, this was even before I began doing it, but I mentored him nonetheless since he was 13 years old. He's now on CBS. You'll see him on Sunday doing football on CBS. So, and I said to him, I remember once upon a time, this was probably when he was getting close to college, I said, I'll be in my rocking chair watching you someday, and it's not that far away. He's already made it. Now I have to get to the rocking chair, which is
no.
not that far away. So, but it's just so much fun. It's almost like having more kids and being proud of them as they move on. And there's challenges too. This is a tough business at times. So I'm there for them, and I'm their mentor for life if they do the one-on-one, or as long as they want me. And thankfully, many of them have stayed in touch.
Well, there you go. That's got to be one of the most rewarding things. And then also, you are also head of the board of directors for the Alex Lemonade stand as well, too.
Oh, I'm not the head of it. I'm just on the.
But you're on the board of
board.
directors,
Yes,
though, right?
Yes. I am. That's so proud of that. It's you know the story, Steel. I met Alex and got the family some tickets to a Flyers game way back when, and just was completely taken in by her story. This girl had so much spirit, and she wanted to do lemonade stands, not for her own treatment, not for money for her own treatment, but she wanted to do it for all the other kids who had cancer. Yeah. And her goal was to get to 1 million before she passed, because she got the bad news about 9 months before she died that it just the medication wasn't working in her last 9 months, and she was weakened. But she got out there and did her lemonade stands and got other people to do lemonade stands, and they made 1 million. Well, since then, her mom and dad have taken it over, and they've raised over $300 million for
wow
cancer. Yeah, and it's twofold. It's for research for sure, and there's so many things happening along those lines in terms of pediatric cancer, all cancer for that matter, but also for support for families, because they need so much help when they get this diagnosis. So just very happy to be part of that. We're going to hopefully continue with Flyers Press Pass this year. We're going to have a meeting on that soon, but That's where we bring a family that's been affected by childhood cancer to a game. They get great seats. They get a visit from Gritty. They come up and sit with us in the booth for a while. They get a tour of the press box area. They get to, if there's some scratch players that are up there, they get to talk to them. They get to ride the Zamboni before the game. So the Flyers have jumped on that and just made it such a great night for these families. And I can honestly tell you, I'm very, as you know, you guys both know, I can tend to take the game home with me once in a while. I'm not in the Flyers organization officially, but clearly I want the Flyers to win. It's better for everybody, and I've been around them for 3 decades, so yeah, I want them to win. But after a game where we have the Flyers press pass, even if the Flyers lose 8-1, it's a win. To see the families and the smile on their faces, so that continues on as well. So I'm glad you brought that up. It's a big part of. I'm also heavily involved with this at Snider Youth Hockey Education. They do a ton of events during the year. I met most of them, and both of those are just absolutely great charities. Flyers charities, of course, as well. So great to be involved in all that. Those are also things that I'm able to do now that I have summers off.
See, how about that? You thought you were going to be bored.
Exactly. The minute I had you as a student, I knew I was no longer going to be bored. Let me tell you.
Well. Just having me part of your life is enough, right? You know what I mean? So
there it is.
Right.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about exactly what you do for a living here, Jim, and that's talk about these Philadelphia Flyers here a little bit. So, first question I'm going to throw at our panel of experts here is this. Your thoughts on the draft from the Flyers. What did you think about how the Flyers drafted? Did you feel that the moving back to 13 and then picking the Jet Luchenko and then dealing the final pick in the first round? I mean, what are your thoughts about that, Jim?
Well, I mean, everyone wanted them to pick the defenseman, but I personally think they have enough smallish defensemen, not only on the team, they also have Milandre as a prospect still. So I wasn't there. The draft nicks, I love to call them that. And you guys knew more about some of these prospects than I do, because you do a lot of great work and great podcasting on them. I know that the defenseman had a lot of good things on his resume, but I mean, do we really need another smallish defenseman? I think they clearly need centers, and the Jet was clearly not on the list either. So the draftniks aren't going to like that, because the draftniks never want to be wrong. They don't want a guy they picked to be 23rd to go as high as Jet did. So that's why I think there was some response to this draft of, oh my God, they reached on their pick and then they traded their other pick. Well, they traded their other pick to get what will almost certainly be a higher pick, because you can't get much lower in the first round than 32, right? So unless they win the cup, they're going to get a little bit higher pick in a better draft. So they increased their draft position when they were able to move the picks. They're getting rid of capital from this year's draft for next year's by all. I haven't seen one prediction, one prognosticator, one expert, one junior expert, prospect expert who thinks that this year's draft is going to be better than next year's. Next year's is supposed to be one of the best in the decade. So maybe in 2 decades, maybe 3 decades. It's that good. So why not stockpile? So to me, they got a center. I think they needed a center. I'm not one of these who feel you always have to pick the best athlete available, first of all, especially when you have a lot of defensemen, a lot of young defensemen, prospects, and you don't have hardly anything at center. So they get Jet. And I didn't mind the pick when it happened. I didn't know that much about Luchenko, but after watching development camp, love the pick. Absolutely love him. The guy can flat out fly. He's one of those players. He's not just fast. He glides on the ice. His cuts are fast. He's quick and fast, I'd like to say. And it's not just straight ahead speed. You know, there's some guys who straight ahead, really fast, can't turn, that kind of thing. He's quick and fast.
So he has fast feet then.
Yeah, very fast. And then what I didn't notice in the drills part of development camp, but I did certainly in the scrimmage, he's very smart. I mean, his hockey IQ he was making plays that when you see him, these are not plays that 70 to 80% of the players are even thinking of making. There are a couple times where he was given passes where he had a guy bearing in on him, and I'm like, this is trouble. And he'd make this nice little redirection pass. One of them led to a goal. He's just smart and fast. Can he get bigger? Yeah. He's never going to be a giant, but he can be Mike Richards size, or maybe even a little bit bigger if he fills out. Richie didn't have the legs this guy has. So, and I think he still has Richie's smarts. So I think it's going to be a player that'll be here. Now he was at the time of the draft 17. He's young. This is not a pick for next year or even the year after. This is down the road. But they got a center, trying to add to their center depth, and they got more picks in next year's draft, which clearly has been a focus of them since Danny took over. And so they're loaded. They're loaded with picks next year. Now, what they do with those picks, I don't know. If it might, a lot of it depend on how they play this year. If they play really good and make the playoffs or contend again and get right close to the playoffs, it might mean that they trade some of those picks and try to get one of the top players in the draft next year. They certainly have the ability to do that with all the draft capital they have. If the team struggles and takes a step or two back this year and is further out of the playoff picture, then maybe they just make all their picks and they get a whole haul of really good players to further the rebuild. So I liked it. Some people who might have liked certain players ahead of them that they got picked wanted them to trade up and all this. I just didn't see anybody outside of the guy who went number one, Celebrini. I didn't see anybody in this draft that was 100% absolute for sure, no doubt about it, guy that you want to trade draft capital up to get. I think they thought about it with a couple of guys. I'm kind of glad they didn't, because now they have a lot of draft capital in a great draft plus a good first round pick.
Lance, what can we tell Jim here? Give him a little breakdown of the upcoming 2025 draft.
Yeah, I mean, Steel, we've already been hitting the 2025 draft hot and heavy. We've talked to multiple guys already this summer that are due to be drafted in the first and second rounds, with more to come. I think we got quite a few coming as well in the next week or so. But this draft, Jim was right. The 2024 draft was the year of the right-hand shot defenseman.
Yeah.
And that is so rare in past years that I think everybody wanted to grab those guys up. And a lot of them were great players and will be great players, but they weren't worth what maybe the Flyers, trading back, I think was a good choice in that sense, because I don't think Zeev was the pick for the Flyers. I thought Cole Yzerman was,
yeah, that's
USA
who we were picking.
Forward that, broke Patrick Kane's and Austin Matthews scoring records with Team USA. Another piece to help out Mishkov in the future up front. As Jim said, we need centers, though.
Yeah.
We need centers. And I think that's why the Flyers punted, in a sense, to 2025. They got one in Jet, maybe reached a little bit, but for their likeness, maybe they didn't, because they obviously probably interviewed this guy multiple times and saw something in him that they liked. And I have no reason to go against what Keith Jones and Danny Briere have done so far. So, I just want to sit back and wait and see what this kid develops into, because obviously, if they're just drafting from the Al Davis school of, drafting, speed is, going to be great on this kid because he can absolutely fly. But as far as the 2025 draft, man, I'm glad this team has 3 first-round picks and 3 second-round picks, because regardless what they do, like Jim says, if they want to trade up and go get that one guy in particular that is that diamond in the rough guy that they think is going to be an amazing talent to pair with Mishkov and some of the others, then so be it. They're going to have the picks in order to do so. If they want to just make all the selections that they have, they're going to get some quality guys to flood this, team system with. And, and that's what Danny Briere might want to do as well, to get, past some of the guys that he feels maybe weren't really turning out to be what Fletcher thought they would be, and kind of have a huge influx of his own players come in all at one time. So endless possibilities with the amount of draft picks that they have in the 2025 draft. And as we're diving into with our other podcast here, Prospect Watch, we're noticing all of the immense talent that is in this draft already. And, the articles that I'm putting out, go into depth about each individual player. And I'm just excited about this next draft. As usually, I'm excited about every draft, but the Flyers are going to have draft picks aplenty. And I'm excited to see what the ones they utilize the picks in the 2024 draft turn out to be, as well as the possibilities that are coming with the immense amount of draft picks that they were able to gather for the 2025 draft.
We've seen a lot of the talent level of the 2025 draft, Jim, and maybe it was foreshadowing, or maybe it was something that they were looking ahead to as well, to why they stockpiled some of those first round draft picks. Do you know what I mean? Because
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing about Yzerman is I think he does have potential to be a real goal scorer in the NHL, but the Flyers knew very well they were signing Konechny at that point. They've already signed Owen Tippett long term. They really
got
like
Mishkov in the system,
and they have Mishkov. So there's your 4 top 2-line wingers. Yzerman is nothing below a top 6 player. You might be able to get away with playing him in the third line and just the power play, but he's not. He's a one-way player. Now, maybe John Tortorella could have changed him too. He's going to have a lot of work to do with Mishkov. We know that. But from everything I've read and everything I've heard from people who've been around him, he just doesn't show the inclination to be a two-way player. He's an offensive guy alone. Now, he's young. It could change, but that has been his MO really all the way along. It's why he dropped so far. But he is a tremendous offensive player. But with those 4 wingers, where's he going to play? And obviously injuries happen, this and that, but contractually, Konechny, Tippett, long-term, they definitely want to sign Forster long-term eventually. Mishkov is Mishkov. That's 4 wingers right there.
Right,
I don't know where else you're going to go. You know, Farabee, you can maybe move, but the bottom line is you're already looking at almost 3 full lines of wingers on this team. They really needed help in the middle, did not need as much help on the wing nor on D, and I think that had something to do with the pick.
Yeah, I think my thought process on that selection was, if he's there, man, it's an immense talent up front. Yes, he doesn't play defense, but we have a whole cookie cutter mold of centers who we've drafted and got to this point of that problem of having to help the defense that was struggling for so long. And now we don't have any centers to help us score. Granted, he isn't a center, but at the same time, with the rumors of Konechny's asking price initially, that scared me. That scared me, because I didn't think he was going to be. I didn't think he was worth that.
875.
He's an amazing player.
No,
I think the
10.
Yeah, he was asking for 10.
Yeah, here's the deal.
Supposedly.
Let me get this out of the way, because I've had to do it on every podcast that I've done, and I've done about 7 since I made the comments on WIP. First of all, Broads calls me up, says, "Hey, can you come on?" I mean, I hadn't read anything Flyers for the last 2 or 3 days before that. So he's asking all these questions, and I said, "Yeah, I'm hearing 10. I heard 10, but that was like in maybe early April, maybe mid-April."
Right.
Obviously, since that time, a lot of signings had taken place, which dragged that market price down. When you're talking about Reinhardt, you're talking about Bushnevich. There's one more info, Kachuk, Brady. I mean, these contracts, I think, brought that asking price down a little bit. But once I said 10 and I said, I'm hearing, I should have said I heard or something like that, because it wasn't something I had heard. When I did this, it was right before he signed. So I can tell people, as I told you guys, I'm swimming, golfing, doing broadcast coaching, doing some voiceover work, and going on vacations in the summertime. I'm not tied in to Travis Konechny's agent or the Flyers on these negotiations, but it set off a hailstorm. And I'm telling you, the one thing I told Broads about this afterwards, after I said thanks for the headline, which made it sound like I was saying I knew something, which I didn't. But it filled my formerly Twitter timeline for 2 full days. So if people there's a lot of people out there who don't think the Flyers are relevant anymore. I mean, I made one simple comment. It got put out as clickbait, no doubt about it, by Broads. But for 2 full days, I was getting stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, it's not worth that. Yeah,
Well-
send him packing. And I'm trying to say,
Well-
listen, I don't know what the asking price is right now. He's not asking for something ridiculously high to get out of town. I knew one thing I did know, and I do know from talking to TK on a regular basis during the season, he wants to play here. So
Well, yeah.
I knew it was going to get done unless for some reason his agent had gotten a hold of him and said, hold out for 10, even though all these other players are signing for 8 and 7.75 and all these other contracts. So I highly regretted what I said on WIP, and it was basically from something I had heard 2 months earlier, or almost 2 months earlier.
Well,
So
Jim,
let's get that out of the way right away. The 10
okay,
number.
well, I wasn't even going to ask you that.
Well, the
I
10
was
number
just-
came from other sources, I'm sure. Lance, you guys
Yes,
saw it
sir.
from other sources.
Sure. I
Yes,
mean,
sir.
it
I
was
saw it.
everywhere.
I got it from a reliable source, but this was well back. So
I don't
like
think
I said-
anybody's, pairing you necessarily with it, all on your shoulders. No, I mean, I think it hit so hard because the market was heading upwards
It was.
in previous years.
Especially
So
with the salary
it
cap
to,
news, yeah.
to almost ridiculous levels.
Right.
So in order to keep those players. So I think this season, like you said, the signings, when they started coming down, were a lot more reasonable or relative to the production that these players were putting out. And I think the response was so immense on this TK one, especially, was because, I mean, let's face it, TK is a Flyer through and through, and this fan base absolutely loves him because of the effort he puts in and night out for this town as well as this team. And there was a big scare of potentially losing him, as any great player when they become a potential free agent.
No doubt. And most of obviously, all of this response to me was social media. And I do want to caution, as I've told Steel probably in his class, that it can't go by everything you see on social media as meaning that's how the entire fan base thinks. Because people in social media who are responding to my comment on WIP are pretty deep Flyers fans, right? The majority of Flyers fans care about the team, but they don't follow every draft pick. They don't follow every contract signing. They don't follow all the ins and outs as much as you and I do, perhaps, or certainly some of these fans do.
Right.
So, but what I was shocked at was how many people responded, mostly saying either Jim doesn't know what he's talking about, which was kind of true, or they're crazy, get rid of him, say goodbye to TK, you can't pay him $10 million. A couple others just say, hey, he's the best player of the team. It was a debate, but it was more heavily toward let him go at 10 million than the other way around. But to me, it was more about it. As I told Rhodes Media, and as I'm telling you guys, and I tell everybody, there's a lot of people who care about this team out there. This was July. This was not, the height of hockey season. And all this response for one little comment made in a radio show at night. I mean, so the Flyers, if this team is going to get better, they're on their way already. This place is going to be bonkers for the Flyers. That's really what I learned from that, more than other than I got to not talk on certain radio stations and throw any comments out there.
Yeah, right.
Because that was not meant to be. I heard yesterday from TK's agent that.
No. Our consensus was this. Okay. We both feel virtually the same way that, we love TK. He's a Flyer through and through. We just didn't feel he was worth $10 million. And if that was going to be the case, well then, okay, well, what can we get for him if he's not going to sign here? Because there's no way we could pay him $10 million. Right. So
they were pretty high. 8.75 is pretty high.
Okay. But it's still not $10 million.
Yeah. But
right.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
They're
so
paying him into his mid-30s. listen, they got a little bit of a deal from what we were expecting, but they didn't get a deal compared to some other players. He's still really highly paid player. I love TK. He is the engine of this team. I may not be around by the end of his contract, so I am all for them signing Travis Konechny. Right. But it's to me, it's a lot. It's still a lot of money, and
I think it's the term. I think it's the length in which that's going to be the question. What is he going to still be like when, year 34, year 35? Is he going to still be producing at such a level?
And that's territory by then. But I'm more concerned with what it'll be actually in like year 5.
Right.
Where it's hard to buy him out. You think about Jeff Skinner was so hard to buy out until he got
for a long time
his contract. So I think TK's a better player than Skinner. He's he's more physical. He does more things for your team. Maybe not quite as offensively gifted as Skinner, although he's pretty close. But my concern for TK, the Brendan Gallagher story is what I worry about. Yeah, I also think TK is a better overall player than Brendan Gallagher ever was, but he was a really good player. He's about the same, size, plays going hard to the net, grind, just doesn't see any contact that he doesn't want to be a part of. So they're kind of similar players. And he's really had injury issues here after he signed his contract. So there's fear of that. But I mean, you put a line down the middle of the paper, pros and cons of signing Travis Konechny, and I think the pros outweigh the cons. So they went for it. I'm happy they did.
Yeah.
Okay. That was what my original question was going to be, Jim, was what did you think of the signing of TK? Not anything that had anything to do with any of this, but hey, I'm glad you cleared it up.
We went from the draft to TK. We've taken care of those two just like that. So
see, you know what I mean, right? I just lead right.
I think I know what the next topic's going to be. I just have a feeling I know.
You really? Do you want to try to guess?
Well, this is your mind, so I would never want to try to guess. When you're because the next topic clearly is Michkov, but in your mind you might go goaltending.
That might be in my mind. Yeah,
that's Lance's mind is goaltending, right? And we both have. I think we already know what we're gonna see in Michkov, and I don't think
you do. Okay, you're ahead of me.
Well,
he is the great mystery in my mind.
There's so much anticipation for this player. There's so much undue pressure I feel being put onto this player because of the expectations of where this guy is supposed to be. Okay, he just signed an ECHL, right, or an entry level contract. I'm sorry, an ELC, right?
Sending him to Reading? Oh,
no. I'm sorry. So he's going to come to training camp, and we're all anticipating him to make it out of camp. I mean, are we all in that same boat?
Yeah, he has to make it out of camp. There's now if he makes that out of camp in the lineup, we've got John Tortorella as the head coach. I'm not guaranteeing anything, but I totally agree with you on the expectation level. It's a catch-22 because to have a player with this kind of expectation level put upon him means you have a very talented player, probably as talented a prospect as the Flyers have had since Eric Lindros.
See, we feel the same way.
I put him by Giroux. I put him past Carter in terms of just the talent and the hope and the hype, certainly.
Hype behind it,
that he brings with him. But this is a player who needs work rounding out his game, and we have a coach who likes to round out games pretty quickly. He likes to, make them round their game out like instantaneously. And if you don't, then you lose ice time. So we will see how that all comes together. Everything I've read about him and what he's said through translators has been that he's a gamer, he's ready for it, but you really don't know until it happens, until he's sitting on that bench for an entire third period or something like that. And I have no doubt that John Tortorella will do that to him. He did it to Travis Konechny. He did it to obviously so many other players. He did it to Travis Konechny this year where there was a long stretch of a period. Coots, Scratch. I mean, so he does not care about, prospect captain. He does not care. If you're not holding your weight. In his case, I think it's basically going to be if you're not paying attention to the defensive side of the puck, at least a little bit, he's going to now.
Yeah.
People always bring up the Morgan Frost situation as a comparison to this. And I want people to understand that if you go back and look at when Morgan gets scratched, it's not after he's had a horrible defensive game. It's after he was invisible offensively. Torts had Redman, he had Artemi Panarin. He's had very talented players along his coaching career that weren't Selke Trophy candidates and never were going to be. He understands that if you carry the offense, if Michkov comes in and is the magic elixir to the Flyers' 3-year power play woes, that he's going to give him a little leeway defensively. But you can't be both not good defensively or just not even a factor there and then not doing much to help the team offensively. Then you might sit out completely. If you're just egregious defensively, he's still going to have some problems with you. You have to show the effort. That is non-negotiable with John Tortorella, and it's part of what makes him a great coach. So we will see how that goes. It's not a strength of his game, Michkov, right now, but he has immense talent offensively, and he could be the magic elixir along with a healthy Jamie Drysdale to this power play. We didn't see Jamie Drysdale even close to what he can be last year. The injury that kept him out was one thing. He had the other injury, which nobody knew about at the time. Some of us had an idea. We never saw him at his complete mobility, complete comfort level. Yeah. I think if we see everyone who saw him as a junior player and at times during his Anaheim stay, the 1 year at least, said that he's dynamic. I saw 2 or 3, 4 games, and not even that, like shifts within games where he was dynamic last year.
Yeah.
If he is that dynamic player and you add Michkov to that and you still got other weapons on this power play, they got to find the net front guy. But I mean, the potential is that they can at least get from 32nd to 20th, right? If you get to 20th in the power play last year, they're in the playoffs with ease. With ease. Right? When I say with ease, I mean by 3 or 4 points compared to missing in the last minute of the season or whatever. So, again, if Michkov is that guy, Torts isn't dumb. He's not going to scratch him if he's that much of a factor offensively.
Clearly.
Part of Morgan's problems were that and I don't know why, because I love Morgan Frost. He's one of the nicest guys. He's very talented. But there are games where all of a sudden I'm not saying his name much. And he's one of those guys where that's bad. You know, if you're Nick Seeler and I'm not saying your name much outside of blocking shots, that's probably
a great game.
Yeah, the stay-at-home defense. But when you're Morgan Frost getting second line center ice time at times, and I'm not saying your name much, that's not a good thing. So then you're keeping him in the lineup not for his defensive work because that's not a strength of his game. I think he's improved, Morgan, and his overall game has improved, but I think his defensive side has improved. But he's not going to win a Selke Trophy, right? So if he's not giving you the offense and he's not really a defensive stalwart, what's your option as a coach? Michkov's, I think, going to be more noticeable offensively in a lot of ways, but a fancy goal here or two, which will wow the fans and will wow social media because it'll be a clip shown over and over again, is not going to necessarily mean he's in the lineup. You got to be consistent force offensively and at least somewhat reliable defensively, at least showing the effort. Defensively. But it doesn't mean he's got to shut his offensive game down to play for Torts. That's not true at all. He's had many players in his career as a coach, going back through Tampa Bay. I mean, I could name a gazillion players who he's had. Marty St. Louis is one who, was a guy who was known more for his offense in the beginning. He did become a guy who was okay, and Torts seems to have that effect on players. But Vincent Lecavalier, who had some battles with Torts, but there are offensive players. You go back through his coaching career. He's a very smart guy, and so if Michkov comes in here and he just right from day one, and I doubt this is going to happen because it didn't even happen for Bedard this way, where he comes in and he's just dominating from the beginning. Bedard ended up almost a point a game, but almost every person I talked to who followed the Blackhawks on a daily basis said he wasn't just so defensively. He was really bad defensively.
Yeah.
So they're going to, there's work to be done there. And there's probably going to be kind of like that work to be. When you're that talented, you just dominate at other levels. You don't have to be that good defensively. But at the NHL level, I mean, Connor McDavid aside, not many guys just dominate the game. And even Connor McDavid has had to get way better defensively to get his team to the level he wanted to get him to.
Yep.
So
Yep.
He's going to have to round out his game, and we'll see how that process goes. I think it's going to be fascinating to watch.
Okay,
Well,
I mean, even Ovechkin had to do that too. I mean, he had to learn how to play defense in order to win a cup.
Right.
You know,
You know what I
when
mean?
you say play defense, I mean, he just needed to be
Responsible.
show effort. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Responsible. Yeah, he had the physicality part of it and all that. But I think, Mishkov's going to be okay. And in a sense where he's going to be able to come in because let's face it, he's 19, but he's already played parts of 3 seasons at the highest level in the KHL that Russia has to offer. And he's went through the benchings for not playing, up to par to their to that coach's standards and all
being
that.
Sent
And he's
to another team.
Right. And he got loaned out to another team because of that. And he thrived last year after learning to come back from that and not letting it beat him, but using it as fuel to be able to come back from it. So, I think he's going to come in and he's going to be okay. And my biggest question is who's going to be his center? Because who's going to be able to keep up with this kid? Who's going to be able to put the puck on his stick consistently? That is
nobody on the lineup right now.
Man.
Sean Couturier, it's you don't have to be a dynamic offensive center to play with a dynamic offensive center. In fact, one of my contentions about coaching throughout youth and even into the college ranks is that a lot of coaches get stuck on putting all their 3 best offensive players in the same line all the time. That doesn't always work. Coots is a very intelligent player, and this is a healthy Coots. Again, I have to, obviously qualify it all by not saying the Coots we saw after he had the abdominal situation last year, the Coots we saw earlier in the year, and the Coots certainly from before his back surgeries. I don't know if we'll ever see that Coots again, but the Coots even early last year was pretty good. That Coots can absolutely play with Michkov. He can also be his defensive conscience. So that's not out of the realm of possibility. From a skill standpoint, Frost's skill set seems to mesh better with Michkov, but a lot of times it's not like that. And one thing Couturier can do is play off of someone else's offensive abilities. He's a very smart player. He knows where to put the puck. He knows how to get the puck back from the other team to give the puck to a skilled player like that. So I wouldn't be shocked if, I think you'll see him with both of those two at some point during the year. I don't know about anybody else. Will he see a shift or two with Paling? Maybe. Lawton? Maybe. But I think it's Frost or Couturier, maybe both at some point or another.
Yeah, and I mean, with Konechny coming back, I would think that it'd be Frost most of the time to start out with. So I mean, this is being gifted to Frost yet again. I mean, through injuries, with the centers and with Couturier's past injuries and all this, he was gifted an immense amount of playing time. Frost was, and kind of never really, in my sense, lived up to the hype that some people built him out to be, because we didn't have the talent in the system at that point that we do now. We have a lot better talent to help him out. So I think hopefully a player like Michkov coming in can kind of spark Frost in this sense to go with. I mean, at times he played with Owen Tippett, which we saw him being able to thread the needle sometimes and give him the puck, and having a guy like that potentially on either side of him, hopefully can see him thrive and put up a 20-goal season, which we've been hoping to see out of Morgan for a past couple of years now.
Yeah, again, he had a tremendous chemistry with Tippett. He was able to play off of his speed. I'm assuming Morgan will be able to figure out a way to play off of Michkov's skill. Again, Morgan is tremendously talented offensively. It's all consistency with Morgan. He's got to do it, if not every night, at least closer to every night.
Yeah.
And he'll be, and he's going to either get to play with those two guys you mentioned, or Konechny, or Forster. Who's the other? I'm forgetting a winger, but there's a
Farabee.
Farabee's another option. I mean, he's going to play
Brink.
with good players. There is no Bobby Brink's a guy I forget to mention all the time. He's a guy who could take a huge step this year. So there's 6 wingers right there for your top 3 lines. Frost is in all likelihood going to play with some combination of those.
And we didn't even
He cannot
mention
use
Tyson
lack
Forster.
of offensive help. He cannot use lack of help on his wings as an excuse. Not that he ever would, but there's no way his supporters could use that as an excuse, because he's going to have, barring some kind of huge, injury problems, knock on wood on that. But if the team's relatively healthy, they've got plenty of skill on the wings. So these centers should have a chance to thrive.
I mean, we didn't even say Tyson Forster.
Oh, I did. I said Forster.
Yeah, he said it earlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But all right.
Again, you're playing with Forster, Konechny. In my mind, on the top
On
two
the top
lines,
line.
Mitchkov, Forster, Konechny, Tippett. This is that's a good. Then you throw in Farabee and Brink, who can step up and into those roles too when they're playing well. I mean, Farabee mid-January last year was really a good player, and then it dropped off. And Brink's kind of here and there. We got to figure out how to get him more consistent. But young players, consistency is a problem, and hopefully they grow into consistency. So, and we need a new level from Tippett. We need him to go. I still think the guy has a 40-goal season in him if he stays healthy.
Sure.
So there's talent on the wings. It's just, can they find the center to thrive with them?
We agree. So now, last year you had your, I believe it was 5 keys.
Yes.
To success.
We made it halfway through with most of
them. Okay.
That was the problem.
So what do you got for us this year, Jim?
Really not much different. I mean, health is number one, which kind of ran out last year on Coots. My 5 things last year, just quickly, not explaining them, just listing them, was 1, the younger players to take a bigger bite out of the team, which in a lot of cases I thought did get accomplished.
Yep.
2 was for Sean Couturier and Cam Atkinson to come back and be contributing players for the whole year. They got about a half year out of Coots, a little less than that out of Cam. And the fall off was somewhat right after that. 3 was Carter Hart being here the whole year. Once he went, the fall off kind of started as well. And then I think it was a 4-point plan. The 4th was health, just general health. So it was the young players, Coots and Atkinson, Hart, and health. Overall health was okay last year, although we found out about some injuries after the fact the guys were playing through, but all teams have that. But they just didn't get the full season out of Carter. They didn't get the full season of health from Coots and or Atkinson. And that did drag them down. And then they traded Sean Walker. He wasn't even part of my keys because we didn't expect that from him before the season. But once he got going, and then they traded him and had 3 other defensemen get hurt at right about the same time. People are saying, why did they collapse? I don't think it had anything to do with they were playing over their heads. I think it was just they lost 4 defensemen almost at once and they got Sealer back relatively soon, Drysdale back, but never to the form that he can play with, and never got Ristolainen back. So, and obviously they traded Walker. So they lost a lot on their D, especially given that they're playing a rookie goalie because they lost their goalie. Name me a team that can lose 4 defensemen their starting goalie and not fall off
and still be in contention for as long as they were.
And be in third place for 110 days.
So this year I would go similarly.
Okay.
I'm going back and forth between Steele and Ron. So this year I'll go health 1 as always, but 2 is going to be Mitchkov. It's going to have to be how he fits in, how he and Torts coexist, and how that whole relationship moves forward, and kind of in conjunction with that, does he get their power play from the bottom to at least mediocre? I'm not asking for the Edmonton power play or the Tampa Bay power play. I'm just asking for mediocre. All right. If they get to 20, even still bottom half, that would be almost a goal a game, or at least a goal every 2 games or 2 goals.
Okay. We can all dream.
Yeah. Well, Mitchkov could do that along with Drysdale. So that Mitchkov power play thing is all 1, I'll say. Then 3 will be Coots, who, not to repeat, but we've got to see if he can give them a full season of being a really good Sean Couturier. That's a huge thing for them because they don't have much going on at center. So we'll call it Coots and Frost instead of Coots and Atkinson, right? And it's not injury related. It's just kind of performance related. Although if they get injured, it's going to affect their performance. But Coots and Frost, will they both be a little bit better than last year. For Coots, just kind of be what he was in the first 40% of the year for the whole year. And for Frost, he showed glimpses, just be more consistent. Then they have at least two top centers, Paling, Lawton, however they fill out the centers after that are solid bottom six guys. So all of a sudden that center spot won't be a weakness, at least. And then obviously another one is goaltending. I mean, you're without a legitimate NHL starting goaltender in terms of experience. I think you have two that are potentially very good goalies, but we just don't know. Sam, I think we know, can be absolutely a great backup and maybe a great guy in a tandem. I don't think we know yet whether he can be the number one guy, because he did slide off, although he was being played an awful lot in his defense. And then Fedotov is really a wild card. I mean, he's going to have equipment that he's comfortable with. He's going to have a full training camp. That's got to help him. And we saw when he just went in there and played on instinct when he was in relief, how good he looked. And then when he had time to think about it, and he started that game in Buffalo, how he looked like a rookie playing his first NHL game. So somewhere in between there, hopefully closer to the relief performance than the starting performance. If those two give them not all-star caliber, but just solid, competent goaltending, again, I think this team can be right there in the playoff chase. Yes, the younger veterans still need to take another bite out of the team. Cam York, maybe he climbs right to all-star level now, because he was one of the young guys who really, improved last year. Owen Tippett, even a little bit more from him. I think you know what you're going to get from Konechny. I think you know what you're going to get from Lawton. I think Tyson Forster's absolutely capable of another level, and I think that's happening, to be honest with you. I think that is going to happen if he's healthy. So the four main things were those, health and the centers, the goaltending, and Michkov. So, if all those go right, I just look at the talent on this team. Their forwards, if all those go right, are pretty good. They got a good fourth line, and Hathaway's a great fourth line player.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, they've got bottom six guys that they can, and then the top six, and then really the wingers top nine is really a pretty good unit. Their defense, again, York is I think on his way. I think already last year he played pretty close to all-star caliber. If you're talking about all-around game, he's not going to pile up 80 points, but which he's surprised towards, and I think even the Flyers a little bit, his defensive play is really good. And he still has, I think, a side to his game where he can be more involved offensively. Drysdale is part of that Michkov power play thing. So if you want to throw Drysdale into that too, but that's part of getting that power play to a level it has to be at. But if you're looking at York and Drysdale and Sanheim, and we don't know about Ristolainen and Sealer, it's again, a pretty good group of defensemen, and you've got a lot of young D coming. How much any of those young guys get a chance this year, your Addards and Jennings and Andres and those players is I don't know, but you have guys that are there, and if the season starts going in the wrong direction, you're going to see the young guys play, and they finally get answers on some of these guys. And then of course we have Vaughn coming in probably in a year or two. So they're pretty well set, but the goaltending to me is, I didn't give them in the order of importance, but I probably go the goaltending first, because if those two both falter, they're not going to make the playoffs.
It's going to be a long season.
Yeah. They'd probably have to make a move to get a veteran goalie, a veteran NHL goalie.
And you're gonna have to potentially lose somebody because there's no cap space. So that's
right.
That's
they have a lot
scary part
of
too.
Space though, Lance. The Ryan Ellis thing can go bye. The Johansson. I don't know what they're going to do with that, but I think that can go into long-term injury too. So they have ways to maneuver around it if they want to, but they do have. I mean, they're not really at the stage of the rebuild where they want to have to be doing that. But if your goaltending's, you're not going to develop anything if your goaltending's really bad. You're going to lose, and you're going to lose some more, and that is not, as Danny's talked about a lot, that's not a good way to develop young players, to have them losing all the time. So I think they would be forced then, but I'm not going to think that way, because I really like Sam Harrison. I think he's a very good goalie. I just don't know if he can handle every day all the time. And I don't think that's what they plan on doing. Fedotov's going to get a lot of starts. I'm thinking a 50-30 split probably is in the liking. It might be more 45-35. So given that, I think Sam Harrison can do the job. Fedotov, I can't tell you. I really like his swagger. I can tell you he's great at the Olympics. He's had some great stuff over there, and he's playing with men over there. So it's all, quite possible he's very good too. They could have two great goalies and a great tandem. So, and if that's the case, I definitely think this team is going to be battling for a playoff spot. So that's number one going into the year, and then those other things fall in there somewhere behind that, but they're all still important as well.
Right. Can't disagree with any of that. What do you think, Lance?
No, I mean, I think he hit the nail on the head and all of those questions. I mean, if they all go right, man, they're going to be a playoff contender, right? And but if any one or two of those things go wrong, like they did last year with Coots not being able to stay healthy and such, that it's going to be a problem. And to me, there's a lot of questions still surrounding that center core. They know it's an issue, and they know that's something that they want to. They know that's something that they want to address. Yeah.
Yeah. The question for me will be if they're in a playoff spot or just out, and they go and get a center. And I'm not talking about a 35-year-old rental center.
Right.
Oh, good.
They would go out and look for a hockey trade, maybe trading an asset or two in terms of draft capital because they have so much of it.
Right.
If they feel everything else is kind of clicking, and all we need is a third center. If they find some team that's out of it, that's got a player who's in his mid-20s or even late 20s, but at least still, not an over 30 guy, whether they go out and make a hockey trade to help out with that. You might even have a team that's out of it and has a guy in the last year. I haven't looked yet. I miss cap friendly.
Yeah, we do too.
Yeah. See a player that's just out, perhaps on a team that's out of it, that's in the last year of a contract that might be 30 or something that you're just going to move on from, that you can get for a third or something like that. They went out and got Eric Johnson. Everybody's like, oh, they're mortgaging the future. No, fourth round and fifth round. Anything beyond second to me
is not mortgaging the future.
It's a crapshoot. Third round on is a crapshoot. You can get good players, but if you have a chance to get a player who's going to serve an absolute role right now, for anything from third on down, to me, is not mortgaging any of the future, especially with all the first and seconds they have next year. So, I mean, that'll be interesting. It'll be and Danny doesn't lie. Keith Jones, they don't lie when they say that the team's going to tell them what they have to do. The team told them this past year what they had to do. They were in the hunt, actually in the playoff spot. In fact, they were in the playoff spot for over 100 days, but they were still toward the bottom, and they knew they could get a first for Sean Walker. So they made that trade, but they also went out and got a couple veterans, Eric Johnson being one of them, to at least give the team bodies to try to get through that stretch where they had the injuries. So it could be similar to that this year. They might, Scotty Lawton, if they're on the, just outside or maybe just hanging on, and it's been kind of a lucky kind of thing, and they're just hanging there, Scotty Lawton maybe does get them a first or something at the deadline. I don't know. But if they're solidly in, it might be the exact opposite. They're looking to acquire something to bolster this team. So again, the team will tell them all of this, and some of those question marks that we brought about, we brought up some of those things that if they're all yes answers, I would like to think if they're healthy, Coots is playing well, Drysdale and Mishkov have helped the power play get mediocre. If all those happen, and then Frost and Coots play well, what's the other one? Health. Goaltending, of course. They get all four of those. I'd like to think not, Lance. They won't be in the playoff mix. They'll be in the playoffs. That's a good team if all of those come true. Chances of all four of them being true are not high because injuries and so forth. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah,
I'm really looking forward to this season. I mean, there's so much to look forward to with Michkov, and I got to find out if it's Michkov, but I'm going to ask him, not anybody else. But Matvey, I mean, that in and of itself is going to be fascinating to watch. But there's so many other things to watch too. Tyson Forster, who I just love as a hockey player.
Yep.
Can he take another level? Can he be a 30-goal guy maybe? The goaltenders. Cam York, is he going to take even another step up? Drysdale, what are we going to get from him? There's just a lot of things to look at as this season goes along. So I'm really looking forward to it, even though it's still a month away from camp.
Exactly, and we are too, Jim. We've been chomping at the bit since the puck dropped on the final game. You know what I mean? We don't have an off season here at Hockey Writers Inc. Man, for real.
You guys do not. No rest for you guys.
Nope, no rest at all. And I'm with you guys as far as that's concerned. My biggest concern is going to be goaltending. Is for me, I would put that at number one.
Yeah.
Just because of what you said. Jim, Ivan is a virtual unknown to the Flyers at this point. We've seen his stuff in the past as far as, what he's done in the Olympics and everything like that. And then with Sam coming in and being overused, I think last year is why I think things fell off a little bit. And then the defense being as many injured as we had last year, I think that was the other thing that contributed to the fact that Harrison wasn't able to put up good numbers and things as well. We both like this goaltending tandem going in, and we both feel that if this is something that's going to help propel the Flyers, this is what's going to need to happen. You know what I mean? You're going to need to have solid goaltending from both of these guys, no matter what.
And let's not forget, both of these guys played in outside of North America, where they play in an Olympic style rink. And I said when Ivan came over, like, it may take him a little bit of time to get used to the faster paced game with a smaller rink. And, it kind of proved that. He, like Jim said, he went out in that first outing or so and just acted out of pure instinct. You saw the skill there. Right. You saw the skill and all the stats, that he was able to compile and the trophies and everything he was able to get in the KHL. But it's a different game when you're playing on that smaller ice surface and everything's coming at you much faster. And, given the fact that both these guys are going to be going into this season, knowing their role, potentially as being a tandem, at least a tandem, I would think, if and be able to have that whole training camp to be able to sit there and get ready for this season in a mindset of, what they're going to be accomplished. Because let's face it, started last season, Carter Hart was the guy, right? I mean, he was supposed to take that other step forward and play many more games than he previously played. Brian Elliott wasn't there anymore. All those guys that kind of helped him along and were that tandem for him. He was paid and he was supposed to be the guy. And now these guys both realize that it's going to be a competition. And I think that competition is going to fuel both players to be able to go out and try to earn that number one spot potentially, even though it might be looked at as more of a tandem.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt if a goalie gets hot, he's going to ride him. So we could have both guys being number one at different parts of the season. But as long as one of them jumps out to take the reins, the team will be okay if that's the case. And right now, you just look at this team and I see question marks. But I look around the NHL and most teams have question marks. So again, last year when I said this, everyone was looking at me like I had 4 eyes, is it 5 eyes? It's like this team can contend and for a playoff spot.
It's talent.
And if things go right, and they did, when you sit in a playoff spot for over 100 consecutive days, you're obviously in contention. It got away from them for a variety of reasons we've already discussed. Why would I not think they can't do it again? Because the one big change in this team is the goaltending from the start of last year to now. And then, of course, you add Michkov. They haven't lost much else. Cam Atkinson, but, he didn't have much left in the tank last year. So, you're looking at a team that's got pretty much the same group that was in a playoff spot for most of the year last year.
Coming back healthy.
With the exception, not having Carter for that first half. And that's a big exception. But
right.
As you guys just discussed, if they can come up with this tandem or 1A, 1B, however you want to call it, that gives them solid goaltending, then I think they're absolutely a playoff contender, if not a playoff team.
I mean, there you go. You heard it from the voice himself. I mean, there you go. I mean, we're in agreement. I think we're all in agreement on this. You know, you can't not look at what is being put out on the ice and not say that there's not talent on this team. You know what I mean? You if you do, you're not looking at this team the right way. Then you know what I mean. So, Jim, I got to tell you something. This has been another amazing show. It's always a privilege and an honor to have you on. We just love sitting here talking Flyers hockey, and I really can't thank you enough for being here, Jim. So thank you very much, sir.
My pleasure. Always willing to talk Flyers hockey, even in the middle of August.
You know. Lance, my friend, I think we got another good one here in the books. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. Anytime we can have an amazing guest like Jim come in and pick his brain is a good show for me. And I just look forward to the season. I'm ready. I'm ready.
We're ready.
Let's get Kim going.
There are those who feel my brain was picked a long time ago, never to be restored.
Well, then, we're getting the remnants. Then
I'm pretty sure Keith Jones is one of them that feels that way too. So.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for hopping on and joining us here. Really thanks to Spreaker for all the help in getting us to all the podcasting platforms. We really appreciate that. Really appreciate Amfram for making all the great shorts for us. Really appreciate that, man. Those are really great, and really thank you very much for doing that. Big thanks and props to all the Facebook groups for allowing us to post out there and for allowing us to put our content out on your group and your page on Facebook. So thank you very much for that. Thank you to Lance, our esteemed editor-in-chief, and thank you to the voice of the Philadelphia Flyers, Jim Jackson. I'm your co-host, Ron SteelFlyers, and we will catch you all on the next episode of the Hockey Writers Ink.